Hello, Jim. I want to thank you for meeting with me today here. As we had discussed earlier, we are doing an intake session. I understand that you had some concerns about some career paths that you want to discuss and that you want to speak to me today. Now, I do have a couple of questions that I do need to ask before we begin. If you don't mind me asking, how did you hear about us exactly?
I was a walk-in.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. That's good. Do want to welcome to our counseling center. Now, there is something I do need to go through with you real quick here before we begin this session. I do have to tell you about the confidentiality agreement that we do have here for you. Basically, what it is that anything that is said during this intake session and any future sessions, it does remain confidential. Nothing will be revealed to any outside parties. The only other person who has any access to any of the information that's said within these sessions is my direct teacher, Dr. Greg Shirley. And so here is a confidentiality form. I'll give it to you here. Basically, what confidentiality means for you as a client, it means that nothing's going to be revealed to any outside sources. However, there are some limits to confidentiality that I do have to go over with you. Basically, the limits to confidentiality, one is if you are suicidal or if you have the desire to harm another person. Those are things that I do have to report to my direct supervisor and to my direct teacher. Other exceptions to confidentiality are if you are involved with the neglect or abuse of a child, the disabled, or an elderly person. Those are things that I do have to report to the proper authorities. Do you have any questions so far about that?
No, I don't.
Okay. So also one other thing I do want to mention real quick here is that, as you may have noticed, we are having to record today because this is for a video assignment. Again, this is something that only my teacher, Dr. Greg Shirley, will see. Do you have any questions about this so far?
No, not right now.
Okay, so here's another form for you to go ahead and sign. This is a consent to be videotaped. Okay, now just real quick here, I do want to go over my professional disclosure statement with you. Basically, all this means for you, it is what my qualifications are as a counselor. Right now, I am a master's student in the UNT Dallas counseling program. This project is for career counseling. This is for me to gain practice as a career counselor to assist those who need assistance in career development, assessing potential career paths, that sort of thing so far. In regards to anything else, this also talks about what the policies of the counseling clinic here is at UNT Dallas. Basically, we are not a 24-hour clinic. We only operate certain hours of the week. And that if you do desire that you need to make an extra appointment with us, that you do give us a phone call at the UNT Dallas Counseling Clinic. I can provide you with that phone number. But if you are having an emergency to where you do need medical attention, medical assistance, if you're feeling suicidal or harmful thoughts, we do ask that you call 911. I do want to go ahead and ask that you provide your contact information on here as well, on the back of that. And also that if you ever need to reschedule an appointment with us, we do ask that you give us a phone call beforehand. We will, of course, work with you. You have an emergency such as car trouble or a family emergency. But if you do a no-call, no-show twice in a row, we do have to move you to the back of the waiting list for the counseling clinic because we do have other participants who want the opportunity to go through counseling as well. Are there any other questions that you have so far?
No.
Okay. The last sheet I want to give you is just a list of phone numbers that we provide to everybody. It's just different community referral resources. For example, there's Alcoholics Anonymous, there's Child Protective Services, there's of course 911, there's Legal Aid, there's a Suicide Crisis Intervention Hotline. I usually pass these out and advise people to hang on to it for just reference use, of course. Now there are a couple of additional questions I do want to go through with you real quick here. Just real quick, what brings you to the clinic today?
I'm trying to decide what to do with my bachelor's of nursing degree.
Okay. All right. So, what kind of ideas do you have right now? What do you like? What would you like to do with that?
I guess I'm considering either something in hospital administration or possibly something in nursing education. I'm kind of going back and forth between those two things.
Okay. Well, sounds like you have some interesting ideas already in mind about what path your career could take you. If you don't mind me asking, what prevents a decision from choosing one or the other?
I think right now it's a matter of time for me. I work night shift at my current job as a nurse at the hospital, and it's really just trying to find the time of day to pursue something.
Okay, so it sounds like there might be a little bit of time management that we might be able to address during our sessions here
Yeah,
together.
definitely.
Maybe find a little bit more of a work-life balance so that way you can find time to choose a career there.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to continue on with the rest of our intake session here, do you happen to have any medical issues or conditions that might need to know about in order to pursue counseling?
No.
Okay. What is your family social history like? Well, like, what is your family demographics like?
My biological parents are divorced.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my mother's deceased. My father lives in Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm living down here alone in Texas.
Okay.
What other questions?
About family demographics. Like you
Oh.
mentioned that your parents are divorced, your mother's deceased, and your father lives in Chicago. Are there any other siblings, step siblings out
Oh
there?
no, I'm the only child.
Okay. All right. We'll go ahead and keep on going. So you had mentioned that you work as a nurse right now, and you work overnight. How does that affect your work-life balance right now, specifically? I mean, is it like interfering with like activities where you're able to take care of yourself, or is it interfering with like social activities?
A little bit of social activities, working nights, and then I come home and sleep during the day after I get off work.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say by that it limits social interaction, limits how much time I have to do things like exercise and
Mm-hmm.
or pursue something with school.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it does sound like that the job that you have now, it takes up a lot of your time and prevents some of the activities that you would like to pursue.
Yeah.
Okay, so to just kind of segue a little bit into the career counseling part aspect of it, how important are those things to you? Social activities, work-life balance.
I would say they're very important.
Okay. Okay, that is definitely something that we can take a look at. Now, to continue on with the rest of the intake, are there any issues with drugs or alcohol that I might need to be aware of?
No.
Okay. Are there any pending legal issues right now?
No.
Okay. One thing that often does help determine the sort of take we have on the career counseling is religion and spirituality. How would you describe that?
Well, for me personally, I was raised Catholic, but I'm not practicing at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So my spirituality it's not something that's extremely important to me, but I do have my internal beliefs.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Okay, we can definitely see how that fits into your career paths and see what we can learn from that. Is there any other relevant data that you think that might be helpful to the future of the career counseling and the sessions that we might have?
Not off the top of my head at the moment.
Okay. Just one last question here. What are your goals and hopes from these therapy sessions that we're about to have?
I guess I would summarize it by saying, hopefully through this process I can, well, first develop an idea of where I want to go with my my degree.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned, I have those two choices in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And also, as it ties in, maybe trying to find a time balance
Mm-hmm.
between work and school and personal life.
Okay. All right. Well, we can definitely look into all that and see how all these different things connect with each other and see what kind of solution we might be able to come up with for you. Okay. So just to kind of segue back into the career counseling part of this intake, how serious would you consider your present concerns in regards to the possible career paths? Would you see it as slightly serious, moderately, or very? Or very
I
serious?
would say very serious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. How motivated are you to resolve your concerns? Like slightly serious, moderately serious, or very serious?
Very serious.
Okay. How optimistic are you that your concern can be resolved? Slightly, moderately, very serious?
Moderately.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and also go through a small list of things that might be any concerns that you have that we could also see if we can work on those as well. If you don't have any of these concerns, just feel free to say so. Do you have any issues with conflict or decision making?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Are you interested in identifying different abilities, interests, or values that you may have?
I would be interested in that.
Okay. All right. Driving under the influence. Do you have an issue with DUI or driving under the influence or?
No.
Okay. Obtaining occupational information. Basically, what this means is that you had mentioned that there are two different career paths that you want to take in regards to your bachelor degree. Would you be interested in obtaining information about those particular paths and maybe several other occupations as well?
Sure, yes.
Okay. What about goal setting? Do you have any issue with setting personal goals or occupational career goals?
Yeah, I suppose I do. And again, I think it goes back to the time management aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that could be something to explore as well.
Okay, we can explore that. To go along with setting goals, do you often find yourself having difficulty formulating a plan to reach these goals?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you had definitely mentioned time management. That is one of the next questions I was going to ask you, actually. Do you feel that this is a large problem or a moderate problem? Or not a moderate problem?
I would say it's a large problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What about stress management? Would it be a concern that you have in regards to how this impacts your career development?
Absolutely. I think with my job, stress is definitely a big factor. So I'm sure it carries over to other aspects of my life.
Okay. All right. What kind of coping mechanisms do you have for managing your stress?
Honestly, not really any that I know of. Maybe that's something to explore too. I usually just come home and
Mm-hmm.
things feel unresolved sometimes from work, and
Mm-hmm.
so
it sounds like that, you bring your issues home with you from work, all the work
occasionally.
issues.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What strengths do you think you have that you might be able to bring to the career counseling sessions?
I would say I'm very hardworking and dedicated. I'm driven internally.
Mm-hmm.
That's one strength I would have. Possibly also, I'm very organized.
Mm-hmm.
Those are things that come to mind.
Okay. Well, we can definitely take a look at some of those as well. Now, let's see here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give this to you as well to sign. Basically, it's just an intake form here indicating that we have reviewed all these different things here. And that it's also, again, going to confidentiality, what it means for you. It's also going over what the limits to confidentiality are. It's also stating here that any of the material and the content of the career development sessions that we're going to partake in, that counselors, that if we are subpoenaed, we do have to release these at a court of law, and it's a possibility, but of course we will work on that if that occurs. So I will go ahead and give this to you here to sign. Now there is one thing I do want to bring up that might give us a little bit more insight into what we can do with these future sessions here. So basically, in order to start everything off, we're not going to do it today, but basically what we can do is there are some assessments that we can take to kind of go over some of that information that we have talked about. It's something that we can set up here at a later date, but basically it's questionnaires and assessments that measure your personality, that measure your values. It also takes all the answers that you come up with in your assessments and compares them across different occupations, not only in nursing or medical or hospitals, but across such things such as business administration, management. Do you feel comfortable with taking such an assessment?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's definitely something that we can do at a later date. Let's see here.